Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
Good morning, everyone. Phil Penarski here with the Wood TV Live Desk. Hope you're all having a great start to your Thursday. This Saturday, however, Warrior Wrestling 29 will be taking over in Grand Rapids with 9 bouts that include some former WWE and AEW stars. And joining us today to talk a little bit more about it is Steve Tortorello. Sorry about that. He is the owner and promoter of Warrior Wrestling. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the Live Desk this morning.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. And right off the bat, Steve, let's just talk about the organization itself, Warrior Wrestling. A lot of people may not be familiar with it. Could you just tell us a little bit about the organization itself?
Sure. So we are Warrior Wrestling. We are an independent professional wrestling promotion. That means we are not affiliated officially with either of the large multinational promotions like WWE or AEW or New Japan, which is a big international promotion. And we use talent from those different promotions and who are also independent stars as well. And we put on wrestling shows throughout the Midwest. We're based in Chicago. We tour to South Bend, Grand Rapids, Indianapolis, St. Louis. And our shows are family friendly, and they combine a whole bunch of different elements of wrestling, from high-flying lucha libre in the Mexican style to some of the stars that you might know from WWE with more character work to MMA style, shoot style fighting. If you like any type of entertainment and action, our shows have something for you.
Mm-hmm. And you did touch on it a little bit, just kind of the aspects and sort of some of the relations it has to maybe a WWE, which a lot of people maybe are a little bit more familiar with. But what do you think sets Warrior Wrestling apart from these other wrestling federations?
That's a great question. As far as independent organizations go, we are one of the few in the world where stars from all the different big promotions are able to compete and compete against one another. So, for example, we have John Morrison, who is a big star in WWE, competing against Storm Grayson, who's one of the major independent stars in the Midwest. We had originally on this card, it had to get postponed, but Sam Adonis, one of the major AAA lucha stars from Mexico, competing against Eddie Kingston from AEW. So what sets us apart is that you will see stars from all different places around the world competing against each other in matches you can't see anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And I do kind of want to touch on the weekend event a little bit, Steve, if we could. There are 9 matches, as I mentioned earlier, happening at Grand Rapids West Catholic High School starting at 7 p.m. on Saturday. Tell the people a little bit about some of the things they're going to see, whether it's in these matches or maybe just in the atmosphere itself of Warrior Wrestling.
I appreciate you bringing up the atmosphere, because that is part of the appeal of a live wrestling show. I always tell folks there are 2 things you have to see live to actually appreciate them. One is pro wrestling, the other is hockey. They don't translate 100% through the television screen or the streaming computer screen. A pro wrestling show live is a fun carnival atmosphere. It is a rock concert meets a revival meets a sports game. People are cheering and booing and chanting, and you feel like you're part of something in the energy of that room. So even if you're not a wrestling fan, I would say give it a chance, because it is an unbeatable live event experience. And as you said, this weekend you're going to see all different types of wrestling. The big main event features a gentleman named El Hijo del Vikingo, who is the champion of the major luchador promotion in Mexico, who just had an amazing contest against Kenny Omega on AEW Dynamite last night on TBS. So if any folks watched that, Vikingo is coming to Grand Rapids, which will be really, really cool for West Michigan.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of leads me into my next question, Steve. I mean, there are these 9 bouts. They're featuring WWE alum John Morrison. You kind of touched on that a little bit. But is there a particular match that you're really excited about or think that is going to be the big draw to for a lot of people to come out to Warrior Wrestling? Is it that luchador match later on that night?
Well, I think John Morrison is one of them. Vikingo is another. A third that I think will be really, really spectacular is a tag team match between Top Flight, whom people probably know from AEW. They're one of the most death-defying, gravity-defying tag teams in the world, and a tag team called the Velocities, who are coming in from Australia for this show. It is going to be non-stop action, wall-to-wall excitement, and it's, I think, very much has a chance to steal the show.
Mm-hmm. And you also touched on the importance of seeing this live. It's something you've got to experience live. But for some people, maybe they can't sneak out of the house, can't find a babysitter. Maybe there's something that came up. Maybe they're too far away. There is another way for people to check out Warrior Wrestling 29 this weekend in Grand Rapids. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yep, it's the easiest we've ever had it to watch it online. This one is going to stream live on YouTube. Typically, we've been with one of our pay-per-view or streaming providers in the past. We made the decision that we are going to share this one free with the world. So you can watch it on YouTube, on the Warrior Wrestling YouTube channel. It will stream live. You don't have to pay a dime. Just enjoy the show from wherever you are in the world, live on YouTube.
And see, and that's so awesome. And Steve, you bring such enjoyment, it seems like, to wrestling. You seem to really care about the sport and really putting on a great show. I do kind of want to know, how did you sort of get into wrestling? What's sort of the big appeal to the sport to you?
What a great question. So I was a fan as a little kid in the 80s, and then I got away from it. And I thought it was silly and dumb and fake, and why would I spend my time on it in the mid 90s? And then in the late 90s, after years of constantly badgering my friends who were wrestling fans about how silly I thought it was, they sat me down and said, "You're going to watch some wrestling with us tonight." I said, "Oh, sure." And I watched a match between Mick Foley and The Undertaker, a famous match from 1998, inside the Hell in a Cell. And it was just unbelievable. As a kid, I loved it, and then I thought it was silly and fake. And then when I got back into it and appreciated it for the performance that it was and for the atmosphere that it had. Like I mentioned earlier, I like rock and roll shows. I like live sports. I like comedy shows. I like all of these things that are interactive elements where you just have to be there and feel it live. And when I found wrestling again as a teenager about 25 years ago, it hit all of those boxes. And it was like a bolt of lightning where I said, this thing combines all of those elements, and it's so cool. And I've been hooked now for 25 years, and we've been running Warrior Wrestling for the last 5 years. But like I said, I am a huge proponent of seeing it live. Give it a chance, sit in the seats, feel that energy.
And Steve, you've done a fantastic job. I mean, you're getting me amped up, really, trying to come out on Saturday as well. But, you know, there's really not that much else to do besides give you the floor. We want to hear from you from the bottom of your heart. You're very passionate about the sport of wrestling and Warrior Wrestling itself. The floor is yours, Steve. Why should people come out on Saturday night to Warrior Wrestling 29?
Great question. As I've alluded to, there's something special about being part of the crowd. You're going to see unbelievable athleticism. You're going to see larger than life characters. You're going to see exciting matches. You're going to hear the music pumping and blaring as they make their entrances. You're going to see the lights all around the arena. It really is an all-inclusive experience. And not only will you see the competitors, the performers, but you're going to see everybody else in the crowd. You're going to feel like you're part of something. So anybody who's ever been to a high school basketball game, a college hockey game, a college football game, imagine being in the student section, but for wrestling. And that's really the vibe and the notion that you feel when you're there. So it's going to be a great time for everybody. Kids are free. Kids under 10 are free. So they can come with mom and dad, sit in the GA section free. We also do a VIP fan fest for 2 hours before the show where you can meet all of the wrestlers. So those tickets are available as well. Again, unless you've got something pressing on Saturday, and if you've got an amazing thing going on or a family event, by all means, go to that. But if your other option is sitting on your couch, get off your couch and come to the place where it's happening.
I could not have said it any better myself, Steve. Steve, thank you so much for being here. I do want to remind everybody watching that if you need any more information or you're looking to buy tickets to Warrior Wrestling 29 this weekend in Grand Rapids, you can find all of that information right now over on our website, woodtv.com. Steve, once again, thank you so much for being here on the live desk today.
Thank you, Phil, and we look forward to coming to West Michigan this weekend.
Exactly. And I want to thank everybody else for tuning into this latest edition of the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm Phil Penarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.